let's talk about Stella Creasy's fallacy, shall we? Because this is a position that the Labour Party is struggling with, and they don't have to be struggling with it, but they are. And this is just headline of the week. It's got to be right. Stella Creasy, J.K. Rowling is wrong. Women can have a penis.
It's just utterly astonishing, but not remotely surprising for anybody who understands how Stella works and her inner circle of alpha feminists, such as our old friend Jess Phillips.
That's right.
I've seen Stella at very close quarters in committee room meetings. I used to go into Parliament before I got involved in politics myself, when I was campaigning on issues affecting men and boys, the white working class boys, the bottom of education, have been for 20 plus years, but nothing's done about that, male suicide, all the rest of it. And I went to a meeting with Stella, and up close, this close, I genuinely think she's thick as mince. I really, really do. I honestly
we can prove that actually in this segment.
Yeah, I just think she's thick as mince. So if you want to play it in, or do you want to carry on talking about her?
No, let's hear it. I've not met her, obviously.
So she was campaigning for a long time about criminalising wolf whistling.
Yes,
and evidentially, it's next to impossible to prove who whistled at who, let alone should that be a policy issue. Then she wanted to criminalise misogyny.
Yeah.
And again, how do you prove, and by the way, where that happened in my home city of Nottingham, misogyny included overhearing an offensive joke that wasn't even aimed at you. Now Miss Creasy wanted that to be mandated into law. So we can already see she's coming at this with a serious bedrock of cretinism.
Yes.
And then she goes into women can have a penis. And this is an issue which is totally devouring the Labour Party from within and from where I'm from in Nottingham. And all those red wall seats they will need to win in the next election. People are looking at this party and thinking, what planet are they on?
Well, they're on the planet where they think that women can have penises.
But it's utterly... It's utterly without evidence. It's
madness.
Here's the evidence before my eyes. I see a man, I see a woman, and her taking on J.K. Rowling. Now let's go back to real death threats, real kind of strikes. Never mind Ethan Klein. What's happened to J.K. Rowling at the bequest of comments like this? Honestly, has been utterly grotesque.
I think some leftist is going to have a pop at J.K. Rowling at some point.
I think we're talking about radicalizing people.
Yeah.
And we've seen it with anarchists, we've seen it with fascists, we've seen it with Islamists. I seriously think we could be looking at a wave of wokeist terrorism.
I think so.
Wokeist attacks.
I think as they start losing ground, they'll become radical and violent.
Because they lose at the ballot box.
Yeah.
Apart from Biden, who's been a complete and utter unmitigated disaster. And so they try and win elsewhere.
But anyway, right, so let's get into this a bit, right? So she says, do I think some women are born with penises? Yes, she declares. But they are now women and I respect that. So what she's doing is saying, I buy into the intersectional definition of woman, which is no definition at all. J.K. Rowling doesn't support self-identification, whereas I do. Of course, biological sex is real. It's just not the end of the conversation. I'm somebody who would say that trans woman is an adult human female. Trans woman is an adult human female. Trans woman, adult human female. Woman is an adult human female. A trans woman has a penis, so is not a female, is a male. Stella, you are actually as thick as mince, as Martin has accused. Let me read that again, because it's just, I am somebody who would say that a trans woman is an adult human female. A trans woman is born male. You effing idiot. I would say that you and I were adult human females. It's but they're not a female. You just made the distinction between biological sex and gender.
Yeah, on the one hand, this is funny, as in tragically funny.
It's genuinely stupid, though.
Yeah. But on the other hand, I've lost count the amount of times I've been on television or radio debating people from the left, and just saying, I remember, because I come from the political left. I was Labour Party for many years before I saw the light. I grew out of socialism the same way I did acne or masturbating or cycling. You know, and a lot of people, however, don't. And to actually sort of look at them now and think, this is the way you've actually gone. But it's funny, but it's also dangerous, because I remember when the left used to protect women's rights, and they were absolutely, stuck on that. And isn't it funny how back in the day, the men's rights activists were always at war with the feminists, and now we agree? Well, because we all agree that women can't have dicks.
Well, that's it, isn't it? The conversation used to be in a, it's fairly centre left, and so it was, feminists and claiming the men were oppressing them, and now the conversation shifted even further to the left. That even those people are like, well, okay, now if the argument is over the definition of woman, at least the men's rights activists and the feminists were like, well, yeah, okay, we agree on what a woman is. Yeah. The question is, what's the appropriate role in society and things like that.
But as a serious issue, I mean, there was a case over the weekend of a trans woman, a bloke, raping a woman in a prison.
We'll get to that.
Sorry, I'm jumping
That's all right. We'll get to that. But anyway, Stella continues saying, as an old-fashioned feminist, I'm still fighting the patriarchy. And it's like, yeah, but you're lost. You don't know what a patriarch is. I mean, it could literally be someone with a vagina, as far as you're concerned.
Yeah.
Like, the patriarchy could be entirely made up of women, and you'd be like, I'm being oppressed by men. I mean, that's literally what she would say. She says, I'm not interested in fighting among ourselves. And one of the things that happens to trans women is they are oppressed by the patriarchy because it goes, oh, well, you're a woman, right? That's it. Let's pick you apart. So for me, it's right to stand with my trans sisters and say, let's fight these battles together.
Yeah, I've worked out why so many leftists are vegans, because they live off word salads.
Yes.
It's absolute garbage. Yes. What does that even mean? If you walked into a pub in Mansfield or Macclesfield or Barnsley and actually put that on a piece of paper.
Fellow Labour voters.
And I go, what the bloody hell does that mean? What are you on about? And they would literally not understand what the hell she's talking about. And that's where we're at.
Well, that's because she is actually deeply confused. I mean, she thinks that a trans woman is an adult human female. She clearly does not know what she's talking about. And the thing is, then she goes, she described it as bonkers, the need for doctors to decide whether someone is a woman or not, as the law currently requires, and adds, that brings up all sorts of questions about what is a woman in terms of gender. What does it mean to live as a woman? I wear flat shoes. I've got terrible bunions. Is someone going to tell me that living as a woman means you have to wear high heels for 2 years?
No.
No, you have to be female.
Yeah.
And an adult.
I think this conversation is working out well for people like us. Yeah. Common sense, those who are driven by data and what they see rather than what they feel, particularly around women's sport. I think there's been a huge overreach in terms of what's fair, in terms of allowing men with peni, to be able to strap it on, Silence of the Lambs style, tuck it back and dive in and obliterate every woman in the pool is just unfair. I mean, people can see the evidence.
Have you considered maybe the misogynist perspective on this? Watching men destroy women's sports?
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a golden era of misogyny, frankly.
Yeah. But it is true. I think there's something much more sinister going on here, and there is a real misogyny on the left. Because why would you stick up for a man who calls himself a woman over an actual woman? It literally beggars belief.
Because you can't distinguish between the man and the woman.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I can assume. It's madness, isn't it? Like I don't agree with the TERFs in almost every other respect other than on the definition of woman. Like, it's just mad how that's made us bedfellows.
Yeah.
But this is another statement, right? Do I want to live in a world where we are policing everyone who goes to a toilet? No. Do I recognise there are very real concerns about refugees and safe spaces? Yes. Do I think we've got it right with the Equalities Act? Yeah, more or less. Like, no, not really. Right? And there are loads of examples of how you actually have to police who goes into what bathroom, right? We covered the Loudoun County incident in Virginia. Did you see this one? Right, this was just unbelievable to the point where we actually felt it wasn't appropriate to put on YouTube. So if you would like to know what happened in Loudoun County with a transgender woman in the girls' bathrooms, go and sign up and support us there, because we just couldn't put it out on YouTube, we thought, frankly. But the school board covered it up.
There's something really sinister about all of this. Yep. I was talking about this earlier, and not only is it misogynistic, putting women with willies before actual women, but around schools and around safe spaces for girls, we've seen in America, the saunas, women with beards and penises, blokes, terrifying young girls, and mandating this should be acceptable everywhere. I think going back to the 70s when the Labour Party were active in lowering the age of consent, and we're seeing all sorts of dodgy stuff around drag shows for kids, sex shows for kids in Bristol with male genitalia on display. What the hell's going on? There's a normalisation of the desecration of childhood around sex going on the left, I think.
Oh, I think you're completely correct. And the reason this was even something that could happen is because a male who has a penis was allowed access to women's bathrooms and raped 2 young girls.
Yeah,
It's just like this wouldn't have happened if that wasn't possible.
And now, if you remember, we were told over and over and over again, this would never happen.
Yeah.
Oh no, this is just a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
This won't happen. And when it does happen, and it happens on hospital wards,
Yep.
and it happens in prisons, the evidence is there, and it's being actively suppressed because I think they know they've uncorked a monster here.
Because absolutely, they've released a monstrous genie from the bottle, and it's got to be put back in. There's just no getting around it. There has to be certain spaces that are sex segregated for the safety of women.
Precisely.
There's no getting around it.
And isn't it funny how it's now an unbearable position to have to care about the safety of women and children?
And it's insane, But anyway, so as you're saying, this is tearing up the Labour Party. And there's a bit of a civil war going on in the Labour Party over this at the moment. So Annalise Dodds, who's the Labour Party chairman, came out in opposition to Stella Creasy's absolute madness, which, I mean, this has got to be the easiest win ever, right? It's like, Stella Creasy, women have penises. Annalise Dodds, no, they don't.
At the risk of sounding like a consistent misogynist, I've sat next to Annalise Dodds as well. I was on Question Time with her. The day of the political declaration came out in Brussels, I was sent back by Farage to face the music on TV. I was sat next to her. She's also as thick as mint. I honestly think she is. And you can see it in someone's eyes. The eyes don't lie, right? The eyes don't lie. They can talk, they can read a piece of paper, but the eyes don't lie.
They can memorize a statement. Yeah,
but she's right on this.
She is right on this.
But then we have such diametrically opposed opinions in the same party. It's a snake eating its own tail.
Well, it's incredibly radical and untenable. One when it resolves, one opinion has to be the opinion of the party.
Yeah.
But anyway, she said, I don't agree with that. Biological females obviously aren't male. Of course, there are also trans women who've made the transition in their gender, but sex is not the same as gender. Yes, that's correct. Again, just a low bar. That's she is correct there. Obviously, I have a huge amount of respect for my colleague Stella Creasy.
Why?
Yeah, why? We don't. She seems to be an idiot. yeah. People who have respect for Stella Creasy is very, very vanishing in the small club. But she says she has a different opinion, and this got her into a spat with internal Labour organisations that claim to defend women, if there is such a thing. The Labour Women's Declaration say that Stella Creasy basically says, oh, well, I've sat down with these TERF organisations and I've had conversations with them. And they're like, no, you haven't. Why are you lying about that?
I think the Labour women's defenders within the party are a vanishingly small group.
Yeah, they seem to be marginalised.
Probably the same as those who defend Jewish people. And I think here's where we're going with all this. It's just they're ripping themselves apart. Years ago, people like you and I were talking about the curse and the cancer of identity politics, weren't we? Yep. And how it was just taking any rational conversation away. I almost miss the good old days of it being feminists against the rest of the world.
I would long to go back to those days. Yeah, it was so innocent.
It was.
Wasn't it? It was innocent. We weren't talking about this weird degeneracy. But basically, they raise a good point here. Can a white person self-identify as black? And it's like, in a different tweet, sorry, they say this. But that's a good question. Of course, Creasy can't answer that either. Because by the same logic, they would have to agree. It would have to be special pleading.
Well, Sean King's been doing it for years.
Well, exactly.
He's got a great career of pretending to be black.
This caused some real ruptures in the feminist movement. In something called the Hypatia Controversy.
Yeah.
Where in an academic paper, someone was like, well, if that's acceptable, why isn't transracialism acceptable? And the argument was basically, well, it's improper to ask.
Well, what about if you're 25 and say you're 7 and want to go back to school? And by the way, while I'm at it, can I use the girls' toilets?
Which a bunch of them doubtless will. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, let's carry on. So Stella Creasy claims that they spoke 4 years ago, which, I mean, maybe they did, but 4 years is a long time in progressive politics. And these things keep changing. Do they not? But anyway, so there was a poll done, apparently by YouGov. We can get to the next one, John. The one after this, that suggested that 57% of women in this country think that women also have penises.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying since the days of Brexit that the polling industry, I think, has just completely gone through the looking glass. Who do they ask? Who are these people? No way on earth.
Have you ever been polled?
No.
No, neither have I.
And here's another thing.
I've never met anyone who's been polled.
I know loads of people that are part of the YouGov database, but when you fill in your initial questionnaire and you tick the Brexit box or the immigration box or I don't believe women have dicks box, you tend not to ever get polled.
Yeah,
now, I'm not saying they're rigged, but...
No, so this is a YouGov poll, and the problem with YouGov polling is that it's self-selective.
Yeah.
As in you have to sign up for it, and then they get to curate, as you said.
Yeah.
So I don't really count this as being like a proper poll. A proper poll would be someone asking on the street or phoning you up, random selection of the population, right? So this actually has no particular use to us, because all it's saying is the people who self-select for filling out YouGov polls think that women can have penises. It's like, okay, but a bunch of online leftists skewing the statistics. I mean, I just would love to ask the average person on the street in Yorkshire.
Well, you would undeniably get you wouldn't even get a yes or a no. You get an expletive.
Yeah, you get,
what are you talking
stupid
about?
Question
get
is that?
lost. Because it's crazy
Stop
the way
wasting my time.
Precisely.
But anyway, sorry, go on.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, so let's ask Keir Starmer, leader of the Labour Party, where he falls on this question. And of course, Keir's been wrangling with this question for quite some time now, because it's a problem that can't resolve itself in a compromise. It has to be a one side or the other side. And this was back in 2021, September, when Rosie Duffield had been getting in trouble with the trans rights activists in the Labour Party for saying maybe women don't have penises. And I mean, don't get me wrong, Rosie Duffield, probably another one that's thick as mince, radical feminist who I don't agree with about any other subject apart from this one. Because
I think Rosie actually is one of the better ones, and let's talk about the abuse that she's had.
Yeah.
For coming out with the common sense, biological. I see the evidence before my eyes, therefore I say what I see. Crowd, i.e., most of humanity.
Yes, normal people.
Yeah, she agrees with that, and faced a huge amount of abuse from people within her own political side.
Yeah, she didn't go to this particular conference, I believe, because she was getting threats from trans rights activists. Okay. No one was kicked out of the party for this.
No, they weren't. And the thing about all of this, right, I think if somebody is prepared to say they don't believe the evidence of their own eyes, what's before them, then they're lying.
Yes.
And if they're lying about that, I think they're lying about everything else. Or they're lying about things just to be popular with the wokists and the liberals.
Just to adhere to doctrine.
Yeah. So if you believe in your feelings over facts, or if you believe in emotion over evidence, I don't think we can believe anything Keir Starmer says. I really think it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
It is an emperor's new clothes moment, and until they kick this nonsense out, I think the Labour Party is in deep doo-doo.
Well, he's caught in the horns of a dilemma that he is not sufficient to resolve. He is deeply inadequate in this particular conversation, and you can tell by his response to it, right? He said that basically we should be tolerant, and we should have a tolerant debate, but when asked whether it was transphobic to say that only women have a cervix, again, say women don't have penises, is what's being said here, Keir said, it is something that shouldn't be said, it's not right.
Yeah.
And so it's like, right, he's not even appealing to a sort of biological reality. What he's appealing to there is propriety. Is it improper to say that women have cervixes?
Yeah.
No.
And that's why we're seeing that wonderful sketch from Ricky Gervais at the moment, which they want to try and outlaw. So today they're trying to outlaw him saying good old-fashioned women, those with a womb, not like the new-fashioned women, those with a dick and a beard. And even that comment is now being rendered as hate speech and can get you taken down. It's just ridiculous.
It's beyond the pale, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Keir, of course, backed women-only spaces, but if you think that women can also be male, then what's a woman here? Women-only spaces in specific circumstances. Well, what are they? The law rightly assumes the inclusion of trans women, except in specific circumstances. There's circumstances that would involve separating women from men.
Yeah, and here's the dilemma. You either believe in something absolutely or not at all.
Yeah.
You can't have, just the tip. That sort of thing. That's what they're saying here. It's like,
don't worry, it's not misogynistic. It's a woman's tip.
We can have these spaces that we've decided are safe, but these ones maybe not. But if they're maybe not safe, why are they?
Exactly.
What's the difference?
Exactly. And so basically, again, this was in the heat of the Rosie Duffield controversy, because Keir was like, well, I do want biological women to be protected, but I've also got this left-wing orthodoxy that I have to pay lip service to, or else I'm the bad guy too. Just for anyone who's wondering what the Liberal Democrat position on this was.
It's even worse.
Yeah, exactly. Ed Davey said that trans women should be allowed in all public spaces because Boris Johnson is stirring up a culture war on the issue. It's, oh yeah, I bet Boris is loving talking about this.
It's amazing how they make out that it's a culture war when this is a war they started.
Oh yeah. No one else abolished the definition of woman.
No, nobody from the political right or even the centre even thought this was an issue. The liberal left has made this entirely their movement, and then when you complain about it, you start a culture war. No, you started it. We're going to win it.
Yeah, that's exactly the point. And there's just the example of this in a lady called Karen White, who was sent to prison for being a paedophile rapist and then started molesting people in the prison. If you can scroll down a bit on this, John, so you can see the headline. She was molesting prison guards. The female prison guards who were imprisoning the women were being molested by this transgender woman with a penis.
Yeah, and like I said, there have been similar cases where of sex offences on hospital wards, and that was completely jumped on and silenced by the health trust in question.
Just like in Loudoun County.
Yeah, and they just don't want it to be talked about because, as I said before, if the nightmare that was predicted by your opponents comes to pass, you have to take ownership of the fact you made that decision.
Yes, exactly.
And they can't because then they'll realise the entire concept is flawed.
Yes, and that's exactly right. The entire thing is just indefensible at its roots. In fact, we'll talk about that in a minute. But Karen White here was misogynistically sent to a notorious prison for men, the HMP Wakefield, after repeatedly molesting female prison guards. It's like, wow. What's going on here? I mean, this is a convicted paedophile that the left are currently standing in solidarity with, but that wouldn't be the first time. Let's be honest. Anyway, so the point is, none of them can define what a woman is now. As the Times recently published this article going, well, hang on a second. Why is it that the Labour Party can't even define what a woman is? Yeah. Do you remember, what was the Liberal Democrat leader's name?
Ed Davey?
No, the other one, the one before. The woman.
Oh, God, I should know.
Yeah, I know. Jo Swinson. Yeah, I don't know why that evaporated from my
She's going to be your next Prime Minister, they told us in 2019.
But did you see her on talk radio melting down about trying to define a woman? Like 20 minutes meltdown where she used to obliterate herself. Well, this is now the Times. This is now, all of our major political parties. We've got to sit there and go, well, what's a woman then?
They should almost ask it to every member of Parliament. Yeah. And while we're at it, everyone in the police force, everyone in any public service.
Woman,
and if you can't get what it is, get out the job.
Yeah. And so I wrote an article about this back in 2020, and it just aging like fine wine at this point. Just because I've had to spend a lot of time studying all of this. And so I just wrote this, the woman, the case against the intersectional definition. All of the links that are relevant will be in the description of this, by the way, so if you want to go and read them. And so the question is like, okay, well, what are their definitions? And they don't seem to have one. Like one definition you'll hear, and you've doubtless heard this, a woman is anyone who identifies as a woman.
No, because that means I can decide that I'm a cat, or a black person, or I'm 6'7", or I'm 12. No, that's nonsense. Adult, human, female. The end.
Well, exactly. That's nonsense because the very nature of what it is to have a word, usually we use words as a descriptive representation of reality. And if it's just, well, I can just do whatever I feel like, well, then we're not trying to describe reality with our own language. Yeah. So what was the point of it?
Yeah, and how are lawmakers, and this is the peril we're running into now, manifesting itself as reality, how are lawmakers meant to legislate for what people decide they are today or tomorrow or next week or next month? It's crazy.
You can just identify your way out of the law if that's the way.
We should like if you're going to go and play football in Qatar this summer, don't identify as gay. Because you might get thrown off a building. I don't know.
Don't identify as a woman. She'll have to wear a burqa, Yeah. But there's also a grammatical problem with this. A definition can't be self-referential. Because otherwise it's an unfinished sentence that just recurs off into infinity. And then the next one was the UN Women's. If you can scroll down on this, John, so we can get the UN Women's definition, which was amazing. Right? Yeah. Women are multifaceted, intergeneration, international. They are limitless and formless. It's like that describes nothing.
Yeah, I remember when that tweet came out. I remember this article that you wrote as well. It was bang on the money, many ways like years ahead of the curve. And UN Women saying it can basically mean whatever you want.
Limitless and formless. It's like, right, so we're not, because this is the thing with it, again, with every definition, definitions are necessarily exclusive.
Yeah.
They specifically exclude things that are not contained within the definition. And if you have a definition this broad that includes literally everything, then it's no definition at all.
And there are specific parts of legislation, like in the UK, the Equality Act 2010, which has a lot of flaws, but nevertheless, it sets out the protection of women in certain spaces. Well, the UN Women tweet here, and every Labour politician and the Liberal Party, the Democrat Party now, are basically doing away with that.
Yes.
So you're doing away with the protection of an interest group you stood for decades, overnight. To what end?
Is this the secret long game of the misogyny lobby?
I think it is.
So look, we can't get rid of women's rights. Well, that's a problem.
Yeah.
You know, we can't oppress women without getting rid of the rights. Well, actually, what if we get rid of the women themselves?
Right, and when you see these imbeciles dressed as ninjas,
Yeah.
you know, trying to protect, trying to stop people going to a statue. Oh,
I noticed they're all men as well.
Yeah, they are.
Beating women.
Yeah,
It's
well,
like, yes.
we don't. Heaven knows what they got inside their ninja garments.
Well, I'm gonna be a bigot about it and assume they're all male.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But yeah, it's a long game from the misogynists there. Congratulations, lads.
And who'd have thought that we are speaking now, you and I?
I know.
No, 2013, we were the antichrist of the feminist movement.
Yeah.
Here we are now saying, let's protect women and girls. Me and you.
I mean, yeah, I know, of all the people. Maybe we shouldn't allow black-clad men to beat up women in the street.
Good idea. Yeah.
God, what a bunch of misogynists we've always been. Anyway, it's just funny how things go, isn't it?
It really is.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as the Epoch series that's between Bo and John on Henry VI. And if you want to see what else we're putting out, you can follow us on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.